What up, legend? Today, we're talking about the energetic body. Initially, I called this module Rely on Love. And while you can tell me, Rocky, you're kook. You're kind of weird. You're a little woo. I would say thank you. No legend was ever normal. And I choose love. I'm going to tell you why, okay? This is not all about love, but I'm going to tell you the significance of why I choose to rely on love when I'm stuck in my head or a little bit too afraid. Love is the bridge, and we're going to explain that a little bit more. First and foremost, I'm going to go through what we're going to be talking about today and what you're going to walk away from after this module, why it's important, okay? Starting with chakras. No, it's not a type of Indian food. We're going to get into that. Fear versus love and an introduction to epigenetics, okay? Default emotion. Nature and music as medicine. And then finally, noticing what kind of conversations that we're engaged in, right? First, let's talk about chakras. This is a crappy model of your chakra system, okay? What I've done for you here is created the way I like to introduce the chakra systems. Chakras are the simple translation is wheel, okay? Straight up, it's wheel. What I like to talk about them as are different brains in our body that harness and integrate energy. Each of them are attached to different glands. So if you are overactive or underactive in different chakras, then your body's not going to function the right way. Okay. We don't talk about it a whole lot in Western medicine or in the West in general. So I'm gonna just break it down for you. If you already are like well versed in chakras, good for you. Here we go. Starting with the lower chakras. 1, 2, and 3. Start like here in our lower regions. They're extremely important, but we're talking about like safety and reproduction and then like ego. Okay? These are what I like to associate with our earthly chakras. These are what our human bodies need to know that we're safe, with a shelter, with food. We need to know that we can have sex and procreate. This is also where creativity comes from. Then we have our ego, our sense of self. Ego gets a bad rap. We're going to get into that in a later module, but truly without our ego, we wouldn't be anything. We wouldn't even be a name. We'd have no reason to get out of bed, and we wouldn't have any reason to participate in Earth, in our human experience. So ego is fine. Well, what I see too often, and what you probably are thinking of, is people get over egoic and start to live from the ego. I like to think of the ego as a first mate. We're the captain. So, moving past the first 3 chakras, the earthly chakras, we move into love, in the heart chakra. Okay? I have it here in green. It is associated with the color green. We're not going to dive too deeply into that today. If you want to jam on that with me on a one-on-one or in the group calls, we totally can. But that connects you to your upper chakras. This is your throat, your third eye, and your crown chakra. Okay? These I associate with like the spirit world. These are what keeps you connected to source, to something greater than you. All right? So the reason that I say rely on love. Love is the bridge. If we are too caught up in our heads in the space of what ifs and holy shits and like anything that exists up here, rely on love. Come back to the heart. The heart's going to ground you. It's a bridge. It's going to connect you back to these earthly grounding energies. Okay? If, on the other hand, we're living in fear or becoming over-egoic, too concerned about who I am, how I represent, come to love. It's gonna help bring you back up into the spirit world, into everything's awesome. I'm just a spirit in this flesh bag having a human experience. So when you're lost, come back to love. Okay? In module 3, we talk about Maitri, metta. This is your loving kindness meditations. When I'm feeling a little bit out of whack, know what I'm doing. Coming back to love. All right? So, very important and a key theme to this, because one of the key concepts that I drive home a lot is fear versus love. Okay? Love is, period. Love is. Anything else is an illusion. Okay, this is getting a little metaphysical on us, but this is my exchange of, there's no religion, there's spirituality. And in my spirituality, everything is love. If it's not love, it's illusion. So if we're living in an illusion, just come back to love. This is tied into epigenetics. Epigenetics is essentially taking a deeper look at our genetics and saying that we are affected on a physiological, biological level by our surroundings. So take for an example, someone who listens to the news every day. How do you think their genetics are being affected? Another example, someone who lives out in nature and rises with the sun, lives next to the river. How do you think their genetics are being affected? Very opposite ends of the spectrum. The point is, if we are being influenced by fear-based shit, we are changing our genetic code to be less legendary, to be in this fear-based mode where we somatically start to do this. It's called the red light reflex. Like, stop. And if we're not physically doing that, like which you can see from like our shoulders and our posture over time, you'll see these like this. If we're not physically doing it, our cells are. That is like the breeding ground for all disease, because if anything is locked up like this in your cells and there's nothing that's able to pass through, then we are like cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, strokes, Alzheimer's, like that's what happens. And I'm not trying to throw that at you in more fear-based shit. I'm just giving you the facts because this is not shared very often. What I want from you today then is to recognize, and this is where it's going to come down to conversation down here, recognizing fear-based versus loving conversations. There's a term that I use often called consciously aloof. Consciously aloof. In certain times when I'm surrounded by people who just want to talk about fear-based shit, I am like so far removed. If I can't physically remove myself, which I very often do, I am like, what? I wonder what that, like I'm not there. I'm not there because I'm not about to let that affect my physiology, me. You want to know like the last time I had the news on? I could not tell you. I don't even have a TV because of it. I don't want to be influenced by it. It's hard for me to even watch football anymore because I don't want to see what's on the commercials or whatever they're throwing at me. And that's kind of extreme. If you want to keep watching what you watch, go for it, please. I want you to be happy. But this is the extent that I take it to, and I would encourage you to be conscious of it. What kind of conversations are you having? What are you entertaining? What are you allowing in? Is it fear-based or is it love? Are you living in an illusion or are you living in love? Which brings us to our next bullet point, your default emotion. Part of your homework this week is to finish the sentence. If the essence of me was stripped down to one word, what would it be? I want an emotion. This is your default emotion. You can also think about it like this. What app do I constantly want running in the background? And it's an emotion. In the emotional frequency scale, we'll go over this probably in a group call soon. We go, once we get to like courage, that's our neutral point. Courage is neutral. Everything under that, fear, guilt, shame, is all in like the lower centers. I'm not going to point back to this because yes, they live down here, but I don't want you to associate it all with lower chakras because we do need that. Sometimes it might save our lives to be in fear if we're running from a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. That's kind of rare these days. But the point is, what are you going to stand behind? For me, it's joy. If I'm lost in emotions, working with too many people or having too many conversations or wrapped up in something, I'm going to come back to joy because I can rely on that. I know I can be joyful. And the way that I get there is through gratitude. So that's part of your homework this week. I want you to tell me what your default emotion is. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, I'm going to hang my hat on blank emotion, okay? Nature and music, both tools to be used and appreciated. Nature. There is nothing in nature that kills or harms just for the sake of it. We do it to survive, to eat, to thrive, but not just because we are cruel. Get into nature. Find your feet. Ground. What do I mean by that? We use that term often, but what does that actually mean? We are an accumulation of these positively charged ions. We give something energy simply by viewing it. That is a part of our human experience. Nature is composed of all of these negative ions that ground us. If we are too in our experience, in thought, we need to ground. We need to get our feet in the earth and literally ground. It's like, think of like when you hooked up a car battery, one's red, one's black. The black one is just grounding. It's just keeping your feet on the earth. So go put your feet in the grass. Go put your hands in the dirt. Use nature as a medicine and then look up, say thanks. In the same way, music. Music has been used as both a tool for peace, for stillness, for bliss, for love, for connection. And it has been used against us in modern warfare and ancient warfare as well. So take a peek at some of your most commonly listened to stuff. And first, like, is it fear-based or is it love? A lot of the shit we're hearing these days, it's I'll leave you to it. But go through that with just an objective eye. What am I listening to? How is it affecting me? Sometimes it's good to stir up the ego a little bit. You know, you want to get a little jacked before the gym or whatever. I'll do that all day. That's fine. But like as a general tone, no, I want stuff that's going to talk to my heart, that's going to uplift me and my frequency, and so I can do that for everyone else. Second, there's specific tones, and I'll drop you guys a playlist or two on whole tone frequencies. These are what music was initially designed to be in their pure form, which has been skewed throughout the years. An A in its pure form is no longer an A as you hear it in the music world. I don't want to get too deeply into this right now, but let's talk about it soon in a one-on-one or a group call, because what you're actually listening to could be damaging the psyche a little bit. So let's just return home on a regular basis with some whole tone frequency sounds. I use them in meditations all the time, and just to kind of like live in that space. You'll notice a difference. Super cool. Nothing left on the board. That's it, y'all. That's the energetic body. We are composed of all of this energy. That's all we are, okay? That is our consciousness. That is us. That is a capital I. So take care of it. Rely on love. Don't get too caught up with your heads in the clouds, and don't get too caught up in the fear of being human. Rely on love. Love is the bridge. Anything else? No. I want to hear about your default emotion this week, and I want you to start noticing the fear-based and the love-based conversations and start to contribute to what's going to move the needle forward and help the world and yourself. All right. Aloha. Stay legendary.